Hello, and thank you for joining our BIP Chat. BIP stands for Business is Personal. And in our chat, I interview people who are absolutely fulfilled and dedicated to a particular area that helps people in business and in life. The reason I say business is personal is because two things impact each. You know, if I'm personally struggling, if I'm not developing myself, I'm not looking after myself, it's going to impact my business and my career. If I'm not doing well in my business, it will affect my personal life and perhaps how I'm communicating at home. So business is personal. And our chats are very, very, very varied, from giving you quite remarkable skills that are business skills that you can apply directly into your business. And also the personal side, how can you become empowered and really improve how you feel about life? We all know that life is definitely not linear. There are many, many ups and downs. And we are in an amazing position in our business because we have a community called BIP 100, Business is Personal 100. In that community, we invite members in who we feel have certain qualities of their values as well as their skills. We want people to be open, not sort of act like life is always okay, so that they can share and support one another and really live by the values that we believe in, of contribution to one another. Hard to contribute to anyone who's not willing to have that contribution. So this week, I'm really excited. We've got Meera Shah with us, and Meera is a really fantastic lady. And we are going to be talking about self-empowerment and the journey that we have to go on through life. And I always talk about the fact that I think to find my happy place and my place of contentment, which doesn't mean I'm not still wanting to strive, but I'm now more content. I'm driven by the right things. That for me has come from me really having an understanding of what my definition of success is. And I think this next 25 minutes with you, 25 minutes to half an hour, is going to really help you. And so tune in. We're both very, very aware of the fact you're giving up your time, and we want to really talk to you. So I want you to feel like you're sitting with us. Maybe you'll feel like Meera and I having a great chat in a coffee house, and you're sitting next to us and you're thinking, oh, that sounds really good. I want an earwig on them. And so we really welcome you. So yeah, Meera Shah, who you can find on LinkedIn. Meera is Meera, Shah, Shah. She has dedicated many years now to this subject of self-empowerment and also this subject of growth mindset. Some of you will probably be aware of the amazing Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Growth Mindset, but there aren't many coaches that I've come across that really apply the two things of self-empowerment and growth mindset together. And Meera's got her own story, which I think is fascinating. And so welcome, Meera. Absolutely lovely to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself so that everybody who's listening knows a little bit more about Meera Shah and your journey.
Yeah, thanks, Penny. So thank you for that great introduction. And I'll just dive straight in and talk about why I talk about self-empowerment and why I talk about a growth mindset. And that will give a flavor of who I am anyway and why I do what I do. So I grew up in Kenya, and I grew up in a joint family. My dad was one of 11 siblings. So you can imagine, yeah. So you can imagine how many aunts and uncles and cousins there were always around, and there was so much going on. It was pretty chaotic. And so I was quite shy. So if you imagine you're quite shy in a very male-dominated, chaotic household. So traditionally, women were, more in the kitchen or raising families, and the men were working. And if you're shy in that environment and you're female, you easily get forgotten. So I quickly used to really hide myself behind books. I was academically very bright, so I carried on down that path. And then I used to watch, a true story, and I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I used to watch all these Western TV, American women and British women. And I saw they were quite empowered and lived quite differently. And it was something that really appealed to me. And then it was kind of like, but I'm so shy, I can't be that empowered person. But part of me really wanted to be that, because I didn't really want to be the whole Indian married thing, which is probably why I'm still not married. So So, it kind of drove me to really understand speaking up, empowerment. It's really been my personal journey. Added to that, the growth mindset part comes in. So I think most of us who are of a certain age and over will understand that, back when we were schooling, fixed mindset was much more of a thing. All the paradigms were either you're really successful, you're bright, you're good, or you're not good. There was no middle ground to grow into something. And I'm so pleased Carol Dweck was the first person who's brought this in. But actually, we now understand, and I'm so glad schools are changing, that actually, because of your beliefs and because of your experience, you might not already be a natural or good at something, but that doesn't mean you can't grow into it. And so then I started, it was only later in the last 10 years I've understood, just because I naturally don't have something or I'm not good at it doesn't mean I can't grow into it. And I see a lot of people with that same thing around, like your self-belief and your self-identity and your experience and your labels limit the possibilities you think you can have. And then actually, if you step beyond those with some support and the right environment, you can grow into things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I do what I do, because it's quite liberating, to be honest.
And you come from such a place of study, but also personal experience. And I know you've become a coach and you've studied that whole subject of coaching, but also you study very deeply, but you've had your own journey of that empowerment. And so really, really powerful. So can we just dig a little bit more into some of the characteristics that somebody might have if they were actually finding that they'd gone into a fixed mindset?
Yeah, we can. So actually, I kind of have 3 or 4 power questions that I think are really useful, and I'll use those to help someone understand what their mindset might be like. But the first thing is that generally, when you're in a fixed mindset, you're quite self-critical. It's just a trait of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, which is much more self-championing, and the talk is much more self-positive. And I'll bring it to life with a really, really simple example that everybody will relate to. Imagine when you have a child that's trying to walk, right? So every time it tries to walk, it needs some support of a mother or somebody to help it walk. It's not going to learn to walk by itself. But how many times does it fall? And we'll champion the child and go, that's all right, try again. That's all right, try again. Even the 100th time, you'll still be saying, try again. And what then happens is we forget that's part of a normal journey. And as an adult, the minute we fall, we feel rejected, we blame ourselves, we lose all of that natural, I'll fall and I'll get up and I'll move on. It's, and as adults, we really, really forget that. So I think that's kind of one of the big things about a growth and a fixed mindset. So when you find yourself self-critical versus self-championing, know you've moved into your fixed mindset part.
I love that. I love that analogy. I love that metaphor of the baby or whatever, simile or whatever you call it. That's really true.
And you would never say that to a child, and yet we're so happily say it to ourselves. Yeah. It's and so we need to champion ourselves like you would that child, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
And so that's kind of the first thing. The other thing also might be so I wanted to say, so the other thing around kind of when you get into a fixed mindset and that self-talk, just the critical self-talk, I want to share an example that I thought about when I was reading. So I'm a big fan of Friends, and Matthew Perry passed away. Very sad. Terrible. But one of the things there are a couple of things he says which really highlights to me like the consequences of a fixed mindset, if I may share. So one is he talks about, he's dating Julia Roberts and he keeps thinking he's not good enough. And he didn't want to face any rejection. So he dumps her just because he thinks he's not good enough for her.
Wow.
And
what happened? Is that a true story?
It's a true story, yes. Absolutely. Wow. They were dating. And then he kept thinking, I'm not good enough for her. She's going to dump me at any point and I can't face the rejection. And so he broke up with her. Now, that's an extreme example of someone who's pretty self-aware of how they sabotage things.
Gosh, I love that. I know someone who's going through heartbreak at the moment and we can't work it out. And I think that's such a good story for all of
There
us.
could be something that, but we're
Yeah,
constantly self-sabotaging. The not good enough comes from a fixed mindset. And if it was a growth mindset, you would say, yeah, we're building this, we're growing this, and we'll blossom this. That's a growth mindset. If it doesn't work out, we'll sit down and work out how to make it work.
yeah,
Versus a fixed mindset, back to the critical, oh my God, I'm not good enough, she's going to dump me, right? And imagine if Julia Roberts was thinking that too. I'm sure she's not, I'm just making this up.
love it.
So if you really, growth mindset is like, hey, she's here with me. That must be pretty cool. If things don't work out, we'll have to sit down and see what we need to fix. Very different.
Yeah, so brilliant that. Very brilliant.
Right. So it's really, and it can have severe consequences on your life from the daily little things we don't do because we're
Yeah,
not good enough versus as extreme as that. And another, so if I look at then the idea around failure, you can ask yourself, how do I feel about failure? That's a fixed versus a growth mindset. Another really big important topic. So, a growth mindset knows failure is just part of the process. Like the child falling, you're not going to get up and walk the first time. And failure simply gives you more information of that didn't work. So either do it differently or get support or do I need to pivot something?
yeah,
And if you think about life or business, it's pretty normal. I'm yet to find one business that succeeded the first time they tried something, right? It's constant. And in your life, in your business. And if you have a fixed mindset, the minute you fail, the minute your business fails, your service fails, you take it so personally rather than, oh, I now have more information on this thing that I thought was amazing. Actually, other people don't think it's as amazing as I thought it was.
yeah,
Yeah, let me find out what they want. It's back to all of that. And I love an example of a growth mindset is I was doing this talk a few months ago and it just had happened. So it's a very cool example. A person who, I don't know how he's personally, but on PR and TV is Elon Musk. He tried to launch that space shuttle and it only went up, I can't remember, like a few 100 meters and then exploded. He called it a success. Right, there are very few people in the world who would blow up a spaceship and call it a success. He said, my aim was just to have it launched. It launched. And now I know what to do next time and it will be bigger and better. So, it's just different ways how we can champion ourselves.
I love that. I love that. We can all relate. We can all relate to those sort of moments. And the fact it's brilliant, brilliant.
And so, really, really powerful. And I think it's important to know that on a different day, your mindset can be different. Like you'll predominantly be fixed or growth, but on a different day, it'll be different. So when you're feeling good, you're probably more on a growth mindset, and on some days you won't be. It's a feeling like anything else, depending on who you're with. So I find when I'm around really positive people, I move into growth mindset. When I'm around people who are quite critical and negative, I tend to slip into a fixed mindset. So really important to understand who you're with and what you're interacting with. It can really influence your mindset as well.
That's really interesting. And what fascinates me about that is if you are in an environment like that, what can you do to almost influence them and shift their attitude as well?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like banging your head against a brick wall. It depends, but at least you hope that by you being you, exactly, you can inspire them to go, actually, maybe I'm being too hard on myself. This is a bit negative, or
it's quite interesting because in 2018, and I've made it very well known because I wrote my book, Business Personal, is about it. I never called it burnout, but I think that's what I did do. And it was all just massive levels of exhaustion and really a misunderstanding of what resilience is, I think, for me.
I'm halfway through your book, by the way.
Oh,
Absolutely love it.
That's lovely. And I've since learned through all these techniques you're teaching that resilience is being the best boxer in the ring who knows how to avoid the punches because they've got so much awareness. It's not about how many times can somebody punch me in the face. That's, to me, not resilience. It's, so I find that really interesting. But coming out of this period, I think I came out of it with a fixed mindset, because I think I was so scared of going back to where I was that I wanted to limit everything to protect me. Does that make sense? So it's sort of making me realize that you can actually, circumstance can take you into a fixed mindset, even though you're naturally a growth mindset person.
Exactly. And that's why I say, different phases in our lives, when we have knockbacks, it's very easy to jump into a critical fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And we shift. But I think once you're aware, then you shift out of it faster, I think.
Yeah.
And being with the right people, it's not that you're always going to be a growth mindset person, but the awareness means you have more toolkit, you surround yourself with better people, and you shift out of it faster. You don't stay there as long as when you're not aware. And fixed mindset, kind of a failure, fixed mindset, they're really linked to things like, I'm not saying you can't get in a growth mindset, depression, burnout. When people in a fixed mindset fail, they can really go into shame and guilt. And I've been there many a time. Before, I would freeze and stay there for way longer than was necessary. Whereas now, with the awareness and the toolkits, I go there and then I realize, like, okay, this is not helpful. And I could shift myself out of it faster. That's kind of the difference, I think.
That is really powerful, because there are so many people suffering burnout and depression and things like that.
It can really happen.
And do you feel?
And I think burnout for me, I'm literally coming to the, like, I think I've come just past the worst of my burnout. So I will say happily that the fixed mindset has exhausted me in different ways, and being self-critical is exhausting, right? Shame and guilt are very heavy emotions. They're exhausting. Depression is so many things are exhausting. But what I lacked when we go into that, and I know people who generally lack confidence, lack self-worth, they're linked or interchangeable. So if I lack confidence, obviously my self-worth is always a bit of a problem. When you go into that, you don't allow yourself joy. And when you're not allowing yourself joy and you're being critical, then you're just in heavy emotions, and it's pretty exhausting. That's
very, and it just becomes a cycle then. I agree with you. And I'm actually, aware of what you've been through, and beautiful seeing you come through it. But also, I've got 2 other people in my life, in my business and life, that are going through it. And it's really hard. And I think your words around the fact that, the depression and the burnout and the lack of confidence and the fear of all of these things and not finding joy, you have to find someone like you to come through, somebody who understands it and has also studied it to come through it. But it's very commonplace. It really is.
It's becoming even more common, or people are more open to saying they're feeling it. I don't know which one it is, but
possibly that's it as well. But I think there must be a way that we can catch it, and once we are aware of the symptoms, that we can try and realize what's happening to us. It'd be like physically, if we knew that our leg we were limping, we would start to try and find out what was making it limp before we then need a knee replacement. In my case, if it happened again to my other leg, I would know that what was, I think we can become familiar with a feeling and know how to avoid it next time.
And I think that's, again, the thing is around the self-care, isn't it? Because I think catching things before there's a sequence of things before they become really bad. And with my burnout, like, when I was younger, I would like go for massages and have a weekend off and a holiday. And that was kind of enough. But as I grew older, that was never going to be enough. And I didn't recognize that. And I kept pushing myself.
Mm.
But it was there, I needed extra massages and extra holidays and extra sleep. And I just, yeah, you're right. You need to kind of actually listen to the signs of the body and self-care way early.
And I think I love this link to this this fixed mindset, because asking yourself, I don't know whether there are some things that you can look for to identify whether inside yourself that you are suffering a fixed mindset.
With relating to burnout, you can.
Well, because anybody that might think, I've started to overprotect myself, or I've started to close my world down because because of burnout.
I think it's back to the growth mindset is, well, my energy is the most important thing. So I need to first go and fix that, and I need to manage that. And from there, I'll grow in a way that's actually appropriate for me, not what everybody's telling me I should do. And I used to compare myself, and there's a lot around, you should wake up early, be at the gym, do 10, 11-hour days, otherwise you're a bit of a failure. But actually, my energy was never suited for that. It's not who I am. But I was reading all that and personalizing it. Whereas a growth mindset, I would have gone, no, my energy is the most important thing. So I do that. And then I grow into what I need to grow into, versus fixed is, if I don't do that, I'm going to fail. I think.
Yeah.
If I don't get that, I'm going to fail. That's the problem.
It's a bit of a side subject, this, but very, very, very relevant. Is that anybody that's watching, I'm showing this Whoop band that I'm wearing, and I promise I'm not sponsored by Whoop. But we, in the community, I think we've got about 12 members now using the Whoop band, and we've got on the Whoop app, we can see all 12 people. And what I found phenomenal is it tracks your sleep and your recovery and your strain and the algorithms within it all. And I've been through, for the last 4 weeks, quite a lot of emotional strain, and also house move and work. And when I'm at my best, and I'm able to get to the gym and do my Pilates and yoga and do that stuff, my strain will probably get to about 12 in the code. But what's called the HRV, which is your heart rate variability, will be really high. So it would be about 46. And that's how much our hearts are beating a minute, right?
It goes from 12 to 46. That's a huge range.
Yeah, well, it's 46 is what it normally is, about 46. Right. I haven't been able to exercise the last week because I've been busy and supporting someone a lot, and I haven't been able to, and house moving things. My strain has been around 14, but my heart rate variability has dropped down to about 19. Now that means that my heart is suffering. You can see this on the algorithm. And if I continued that, it would give me burnout. So it's really interesting what you're saying, because I can see scientifically. So what I have to do is rest. I have to rest, and then I slowly see my heart rate variability improving, and I see the strain dropping. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing that you can measure it, because actually
scientifically, everything you're saying, so you can monitor yourself better.
And I love it, because actually sometimes, we're in a bit of denial. We always have a bit of, I can push myself more, I can do more. And actually having a scientific measure is like, no, this is telling me what I'm feeling, that I feel I want to rest, and this is telling me I need to rest. I think that takes a bit of the guilt off, because sometimes we do question ourselves and go, am I being a bit lazy? Can I push myself? We all go into that. And I didn't know that. And I love that you can actually measure it.
And scientifically prove everything you're saying. Which I think is
and really, I think we need to all just become a lot, and I'm me, I'm heart-led and emotional and spiritual, all that, much more heart-led stuff, not just mind. I think we need to all be more in touch with our bodies and our emotions. We do have a natural intelligence that we know how we're feeling. So I think we need to tune into that a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. You really are. And where does, because I think it was lovely the way you introduced yourself and you talked about the beliefs that you absorbed as a young person in the family, in a very traditional Indian family in Kenya, where there was real demarcation of roles and women weren't as empowered.
And it still happens in India, in developing countries. I mean,
Yeah.
it's changing a lot, obviously, from when I grew up. Still huge, though, in developing countries. It's
Yeah.
much bigger than here.
But your beliefs, I mean, what you did is somehow those beliefs that were programmed into you. And you must come across this with clients that, you know, their beliefs are what's limiting them. And they don't even realize they've got these programmed beliefs. And I know I'm interviewing you when you've got a cold, you're managing it ever so well.
Sorry, I'm just, ignore the
I know,
water.
no, you're managing it very, very well. Yeah, these beliefs, we talk a little bit about our beliefs and how they can determine, you know, our life and how we empower ourselves?
Yeah, so I mean, mine was obviously being in a male environment and having kind of the female Indian roles, which were family comes first, getting married. In Indian culture still, at least where I come from, getting married and getting married well is far bigger an achievement than anything else.
Mm.
Being a good cook, all those things. Yeah, having kids is a big thing. I think in most societies there is, but more in those sort of Indian, Asian cultures, I think it's way bigger.
Right.
Then I have some clients, like you have to be careful of your beliefs. So mine was all of that, and my family wasn't that religious. Religion can really be a really big one. And I don't want to point things out, but just as an example, I've had 4 clients, and that's why I can mention it, is there's certain beliefs, like the Catholic religion has that really limits in the way it limited me from doing what I wanted to do, the shyness and all of that. Whatever your religion teaches you, sometimes it was created back in the day as a protection or power. You kind of need to understand how that affects modern day living and how appropriate. So religion's a big one, I feel. Sometimes maybe your schooling or your friends. So if you've grown up in poverty, then thinking you can be really rich. For some people, that's a real driver, but for some people, it can feel too much of a stretch. I do this I do a couple of exercises which really kind of make you think way bigger. One is a visioning one and one is a financial one. And this has stumped me the first time I did that exercise in a room of MBAs, so highly ambitious people. I'll tell you what the exercise is actually. People can try if they're listening. I say, like, close your eyes, and then it's built up to that. But the last bit of it, imagine you are going to feature on the cover of your favorite magazine or newspaper. So whatever it is, right? It could be Forbes or Glamour or whatever your thing is. How are you going to look and what's it going to say about you? And the thing that always surprises me is actually how much resistance people have. They can't even imagine being on that cover. And it's like, they can't even, it's an exercise, and most people can't even imagine that they could make that. And so it just kind of goes to show that your limitations even stop you from dreaming. So yeah, just be careful who you hang out with, the schools you went to, what you're reading, the religion you have.
Interesting. It's
Also,
so interesting. I went out for dinner with some friends last night, and they're relatively new friends, but we've bumped into each other in Farnham for years. And she said to me, you are in the top 3 of the most glamorous women I know.
oh,
And I could have fallen off my chair when she said it, because I had all sorts of beliefs growing up about myself. And one of them was not that at all. I've got 2 very glamorous sisters, and my mum would, we would arrive at Christmas Day or something, and she would praise the way they looked, but not me. And somehow my style did not suit her style. So I've just grown up feeling not as attractive, not at all glamorous. I had all these belief systems, and to hear her say that really, really shocked me. Actually, really, it's to this moment it does.
And how did you react when she said that to you?
I think
were you able to just say thank you, or was your first instinct to go, I can't believe it?
It was sort of, I said thank you, but I'm very shocked. And then I did start to, reduce myself in front of her. I did. I could feel I was doing it. I can't imagine why you would think that. And goodness me, look at these other people. Because clothes-wise, I've got a capsule wardrobe, and I lived in jeans when I was young, and I've got a capsule wardrobe. I don't have glamorous dresses. I don't dress glamorously. So I couldn't relate to it. So what her definition is, I don't know. But the other one, when I did some group therapy around beliefs in 2018, I was working with a therapist, and he said, let's do some group stuff as well. And they asked me to write, we wrote on a board, I am, ... and we had to write, I am. And it was very interesting because I wrote, I am not wanted. And that was a feeling I had all my life, because I was the last child of 4. My parents didn't, my mum didn't breastfeed me. I was annoying to the siblings. I was supposed to be a boy. There was lots of things. And that is interesting, because it's sort of a negative thing, obviously, to feel not wanted. And it has defined a lot of the ways that I've actually turned into a superpower, because I want people to realize how wanted and significant they are. That's a really important part of my values. But there was another woman that wrote, I am happy. And a man wrote, I am clever. And I thought, oh, lucky things to have such positive belief systems. And when we deconstructed it in the room, their belief systems were very, very hard for them, because if at any point she wasn't happy, she felt destroyed, because that was, I am happy. So she didn't know how to handle not being happy. And the man in the room said, I am clever. If ever anything went wrong, if he failed at anything, he was destroyed.
Oh my God, that's the end of him, right?
Belief system of being clever. So I find this whole belief systems really incredibly empowering when you get beneath, when you must work with your clients and get beneath, where are these belief systems coming from? Incredibly interesting, that are defining your journey in your life.
And a lot of them are created in defense. And obviously, I said I'm quite spiritual. A lot of them actually have born out of lineages and history. And I mean, obviously it depends on the client and how far back you go. Obviously, because of the work I do, I can go back. It was really funny. There was, just to add to what you're saying, I once did something with somebody, and I kept hearing like, it's a bit deep, but I was doing this work with somebody. It was a spiritual thing, and we tuned in, and I kept getting like the word, you're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch. And then I had to sit down. I was like, if I'm really honest, I don't think anyone, so it stemmed from I'm not good enough. And then when I tuned into the I'm not good enough, I kept getting like a voice or a thing saying I'm a bitch. And I kept thinking, but I've actually never been called that. I've been blessed. I know lots of women get called that, and it's a really collective phenomenon where women are labeled as bitches when, especially back in the day when they asked for what they wanted, or they were glamorous, or they were a bit like, these are my needs. A lot of them labeled them as bitches. And I was like, maybe that's where it's come from. Maybe some of my aunts that I'd seen who were a bit more, had more self-worth, and said I want. But actually, as I kept tuning in, I got all the way to, as some people may or may not know this, but Mary Magdalene, who was Jesus's partner back in the day, she got labeled as a whore and a bitch. And it was funny, some of those things then carried down. So the beliefs, some are what we create in a defense, but some was absorbed collectively through lineages. And
that's really
and just to be aware of, what, that is not true. Men at the time used it for power, and but to deconstruct that takes a bit of time, really.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I know the other word is that stop nagging. Oh, that drives me mad when women are
right. And it's just a way where women were shut down, and didn't have a voice when they said stop nagging. Most of the time,
exactly.
you're not even nagging,
No.
right? What does that even mean,
What
right?
does it mean exactly? So you qualified as an accountant, and you took your own journey because you went this academic route, and you've taken, and I know you are very much a businesswoman. You understand business. You're an amazing operator in a business field, but you now are working to help people overcome some of these things that actually, once you create awareness of them, can be really quite quick results, can't they, with people?
Exactly, because then you realize that's what's driving your goals and your
Yeah.
visions, and you're like, okay, no, that's not true. In my case, no, I'm not a bitch, or so what if I am, whichever one. But either way, I don't care, kind of,
Yeah.
whichever works. It's you have to kind of look at it a bit more deeply to see whether it needs love or releasing. It could be either, because sometimes you've got to love parts of yourself. If it is true, then you have to love that part of yourself. But if it's not true, you can release it. So anyway, all of that. Yeah, and I think,
sorry.
yeah. No, I said that just really ends up limiting, those labels of me thinking I don't have confidence, I don't have self-worth. A big one we all have sometimes comes up a lot is I don't deserve this. And that comes from like your family or what you believed, it's a really sad one, but it comes up. Anyway, but that then limits the goals and visions we set, who we hang out with, all of that. So actually, if you can just understand these are the things that have been driving me, but they're not true, then you can set a different vision for you, your business, your life, all of that.
That is beautiful, Meera. And when you work with clients, I know you have some good speaking roles as well with companies, but you coach with clients one-to-one, and do you do that virtually as well as face-to-face?
Yeah, most of it's now virtual,
Yeah.
actually. I miss the face-to-face, especially the talks I miss face-to-face. But now most of it's virtual. I can see clients face-to-face, but obviously Zoom's become my new best friend. And in a way, it makes it easier. People don't have to travel. They're comfortable at home. Occasionally, especially if it's a longer session, 2-3 hours, then sometimes somebody might want to do it in person. I've had clients who kind of wanted to practice a speech or something, then we've done that in person because it's more fun and get
that's great.
more out.
And
but
that
yeah,
is
a lot of it Zoom, one-to-one talks, workshops.
Brilliant. Oh, it's been really lovely talking with you, Meera. I hope you've enjoyed it, listening in, sitting by our side while we're doing this. And don't know whether you've been in the car listening or walking along or sitting at your desk, but thank you for joining us. And if you would like to contact Meera, you can get in touch with her either through me, very welcome to send me a message, or go on to LinkedIn and find Meera Shah, Meera Shah, Shah, 2 words, obviously, Meera. You've been amazing, and I've absolutely loved this chat. Thank you so, so much. And thank you, everyone, for giving us your attention today. That means a lot to us.